Samplers! Sampler September, woo! Hello. I'm sorry this is late. I had intended on creating a video this last weekend in honor of Sampler September. I wanted to do one every weekend. And then I woke up Sunday and I was like, I don't think I feel good. Do I feel good? I don't think I feel good. And my husband was like, I kind of don't feel good either. And Graham was like, my throat is kind of... So I've spent the last 5 days sort of not feeling good. And it's like my body, you know how sometimes you're having a conversation with someone and then you both start talking at the same time and you're like, no, go ahead. Oh, okay. Well, so that's what me and my body are doing. It's like, are you sick? No, you're okay. And then and then I'm like, no, you know what? I think I don't feel good. Anyway, I do not want to get sick because Galleria is next week and I'm going to work my booty off. So I've been trying to, take it a little bit easy. So welcome. I'm glad y'all are having a great time with Sampler September. I have been too. I've been doing some stitching, but I have not started anything new. I just haven't had the energy. My first week of the month, the orders were fast and furious, and it was all we could do to keep caught up with shipping orders out. And then, like I said, I haven't felt well. So, but I have been stitching, and I'll show you what I've been working on real quick. Let me see if I can make sure. I'm going to close a few things down. My computer is hiccuping a little bit. And sometimes it does that if I got too many things open. You know how it is? Overworked. Sorry, computer. So, last time that we were here, I said I was going to give away a book, and you know what? I forgot to go draw. So I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to pause, and I'll be right back. Okay, am I back on? I'm back on. Of course, Zero had to make his self known. So we may be doing some baby holding here in a minute. He's right here. The cats have been super in my face this week, which is a little bit annoying because I'm super busy. But they're like, hey, you want to pet me? I'm really cute. And I do want to pet them, but I'm busy. Okay, so I did the drawing, and the drawing was for this lovely book that is new this year, Delaware Discoveries by Gloria Seaman Allen. And I do carry this in my shop. It is a lovely, lovely, lovely book. And the winner is Rah Rah's Realm. And before you protest Rah Rah in your realm, I'm going to ship this to you anyway. She says, okay, here's my answer, but don't ship to me because I live in New Zealand and it would be expensive. I don't care. You shouldn't be punished for living in New Zealand. It has been my experience that stitchers from New Zealand and Australia are lovely, lovely people. And so I want to send this book down to your realm for you to enjoy because you win. And she said she is working on Sarah Casey Unwin by Chessie and Me and the Lucy Calcutt 1825 sampler by, I have it on my website. It's wonderful. Stitching. I'm going to go get it. Hang on. I'm not pausing again because I don't like to. I'll be right back. I think it's just stitching along, isn't it? Okay, here it is. All right, I got it. Yeah, it was just stitching along. It's just stitching along. It's just stitching along. There it is. That's what she's working on, Miss Lucy Calcutt. And the cool thing about this sampler is there's a sister sampler that is actually not a sister sampler. It's a self sampler where she stitched one in 1825 and one in 1826. It's a really cool little sampler. So that's what Rah Rah was working on in her realm. And I'm so happy that you won. For next time, the drawing is going to be for a chart of your choice from my website. Yes, even that one. Any chart, as long as it's in stock. And the question is, what needlework piece of yours do you feel especially proud of? And so this can be something that's, it is finished, but not fully finished, or it's not even finished yet, but you're working on it, or it is finished and you gave it away, or it's hanging on your wall. Just tell me about what needlework piece you've done that just you feel really proud of. So that's how you enter for next time to win a chart of your choice. All right. So after my last video, I got a lot of emails from people with different questions about samplers and sampler stitching, and I thought I would include the answers and some of these questions that I get, not just this last week, but just in general. In our family, we say in common instead of in general, because when my son Graham was little, he, instead of saying in general, he would say in common for some reason. That's what he thought it was, and we thought it was so cute. So in common, what are some sampler questions? Number one, this is a list of 10, my famous lists of 10. Number one is, what about Ada? I regularly get questions from people where they're like, hey, can I stitch this sampler on Ada? Or is it even appropriate to stitch a sampler on Ada? And it is. You can, of course you can. And the only time that you may run into a little bit of trouble is if a sampler has over one stitching for the verse, which a lot of samplers do, but not every sampler. And there are a lot of samplers that don't have verses at all. And then if there are some specialty stitches, sometimes it could be tricky. I could see where doing a queen stitch on Ada might be tricky. It's doable. It's doable. But I do, sometimes people will say, hey, here's a sampler that I would like to get the chart for. Can I stitch this on Ada? And I will let them know like what challenges they may have, if any. And so, yes, you can stitch on Ada, and it doesn't make your sampler inaccurate or not historic or not wonderful or lovely. I had a customer here in town named Sharon. Lovely lady, poor eyesight. And she only stitched on Ada, but she stitched on hand-dyed Ada. So I used to send Ada to R&R Reproductions and have them dye it for her, I want to say, and I'd get it back. And she had a house full of samplers stitched on Ada, and they were gorgeous. So yes, you can. The number 2 question is, let me just make a note here. And these are not in order. So I do get questions about what kind of fibers to use, and people say like, oh, does that one use silks? I don't have silks. I have DMC or I have sampler threads, but I don't have silks, and so maybe I can't do that one. You do not have to stitch a sampler in the threads that is called for. Historically, silks were used. They're very fun to stitch with because it's smooth like butter, but it's expensive, and if you have a big sampler or there are a lot of colors, it can be cost prohibitive to do that. And if you don't have a collection, you're starting from scratch, it's not, not the best thing. I guess if you'd really like to try silks, you could try like an all red sampler and just pick a couple skeins of red and just go to town and see what you think. But you do not have to use what's called for. You can switch colors. You can say, you know what, this rose is a little bit too salmon for me. I want to go a little bit more towards the kind of reddish pink, whatever. So you're not trapped by what the designer has called for. So feel free to switch around, and it's not going to mean that your sampler is less lovely. It will have a different look to it, but not a bad look. And honestly, most people looking at a sampler on the wall or any piece of needlework, we're specialists, you know what I mean? Like, we might be able to look and see. But if you're standing 10 feet away and you don't really know much about needlework, all you're going to say is, that's really pretty. Did you make that? So, number 3. I get this regularly too. Hey, I found a sampler online that I kind of want to buy. What do you think about this one? And I don't mind taking a look. People will send me a link to eBay or an auction site or whatever, or they'll send me a picture of, whatever, something that they have found that they are considering purchasing. And I don't mind taking a look. I can tell you like what I notice about it, like what the materials look like, what, maybe what country it might be from, or how old it might be if there's no date. People really what they want to know is this a good deal? If I get this, am I paying too much for it? Typically, if something's been listed for a long time, you probably would be paying too much for it at the price it's at. But what something is worth is what somebody's willing to pay for it. So I don't know if you ever have watched like, what is it, the Barrett-Jackson, there's like some kind of car show where people refurbish old cars and then sell them. And sometimes, somebody refinishes some grand old car and it sells for $15,000 and you're like, oh, ouch. Yikes, that's definitely worth more than that. Nope, but no one was willing to pay more than that. So that's what that car is worth that day in front of that audience of people. And so all it takes really is a couple people who want the same thing to suddenly make something worth more money. Which is why sometimes if you watch eBay auctions for samplers, I think sometimes samplers go for more than probably what they'd be worth if you just kind of listed it for sale at a price. But people get caught up in the idea of, I'm competing for this and I really want it. And it's like, you don't see it as like, oh, I'm going to spend $800 on a sampler that's worth $200. You see it as, I only need to spend $5 more to beat this person. So it is a good idea to think about like what your budget is. If you see a sampler and you're like, I got to have it, and you know, don't mind paying that much for it, then knock yourself out. With antiques, it's pretty common to ask people if they would be willing to take a little bit less. You can offer them 10% less and see what they think. But you know, I've read it before, and I think it's true that people who are going to collect antiques, that you should buy the best you can afford. I don't use that. I don't use that at all. I don't use that that motto at all, because when I buy a sampler, I'm buying for the design. And so a lot of actually, this would be a good time to show this. I couldn't find a picture for y'all of the sampler. This was the first sampler I bought and reproduced way back when. It's Ragamuffin number 1, which is not as famous as Ragamuffin number 2, but it's Ann Harrison, and this is the reproduction. It's stitched in silks on hand-dyed linen. I think a 29 count maybe, which was pretty close to the size of the original. I think it's a really cool sampler. When I saw it, I hadn't really shopped for samplers before. I think there was one day where I was like, I wonder if you can find antique samplers on eBay. And I found this and I was like, I have to buy it, and I paid too much money for it. It was in wool. It was in pretty awful shape. I have since resold it, and I think I did get my money back on it, so that was okay. But it was pretty tattery. It was not in great shape. But I liked the motifs. I liked the windmill and the animals at the bottom. I think, is this the one? I don't know. So the horse had a little kind of primitive mane that she put on. Let's see if I can hold it up so you can see. She just put a few little stitches in to make a horse's mane. And so that's that one. And I do still sell this chart. But like I said, I paid too much money for it because I was like, oh, what if I got to get this because someone else is going to jump on it. Well, it likely had been up for a while. You have to remember that samplers are not rare. I think that in our minds we think they're rare because they're old, right? And we don't see them in our hometowns typically. You don't have a lot of people that are just kind of hanging out with a bunch of samplers. But there are thousands and thousands and thousands of samplers, thousands. And any week on eBay, you can look, and there might be, 100 to 300 different antique needlework pieces up for sale. It's kind of like diamonds, we kind of put a lot of value on diamonds, and it's like, oh, diamonds, they're rare. Diamonds are so rare. Diamonds are not that rare. If you go to the mall, how many diamond stores are there, and how many diamonds does each store have, and how many malls are there, and how many, there's a lot of diamonds in the world. So it's kind of the same with samplers. Don't feel like you see one and it's like, oh, I'll never find another sampler. You will. If you love something, I think you should, and you can swing it and you want to, kind of the rule I use is if I wait and I don't win this sampler, or I don't come back to it and I come back and somebody has bought it, how disappointed am I going to be? Sometimes the answer is, you know what, not that disappointed. I'm okay with it, which means, maybe it wasn't meant to be. Okay, question number 4. Okay, sometimes people find a picture of a sampler online, or they send me one from, it might be like a family sampler or a local museum sampler, and they'll say, I really like this. Has this been reproduced? Usually no. Usually no, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of samplers, and thousands and thousands. And the number of samplers that has been reproduced is minuscule in comparison to how many old samplers there are. So usually the answer is no. And that's especially true if something belongs to a museum or a private collector, because it's not kosher for a designer reproducer or to see a sampler and then reproduce it and sell the chart without getting permission from the owner, permission from the museum or the person who owns that sampler. So if you're wondering if a sampler has been reproduced, the answer is probably no. However, styles are stitched. So you can see a sampler and say, well, I don't recognize that one, but here's one that's kind of similar. And so that is, that's one thing that you can do. Another question I get is, do I put her name on the sampler or do I put my name on the sampler? Who do I stitch on the sampler? I do sometimes both. I'll sneak my name in and put her name in. Sometimes I just do her name. Sometimes I do just my name. And it's really up to you. I think some people feel funny about stitching someone else's name because they're like, hey, I stitched the sampler. Sarah Bailey in 1842 stitched hers, but this is mine. I don't know if there's a Sarah Bailey sampler. And then some people say, well, I want to stitch her name because I want to honor her. There's not really a right answer to that. I think that it is cool to put your name with the sampler in some fashion, because I think in 100 years it would be cool for somebody to get your sampler somewhere and go like, oh, this is neat. So this was originally, from the 1800s, but then in the 2000s, somebody else stitched the same sampler. So, and people will be aware in the future that this is what we're doing because internet, right? How do people in the future... Okay, so this is number 6. How do people in the future, how are they going to know when these reproductions were stitched if we put all these old dates and names on them? I think you could fake making something look like an antique, making it dusty, dirty, grungy. But there's the smell and a quality about an antique sampler that would be really hard to fake. Our fabric is really nice these days, ladies and gentlemen, and a lot of times these, stitchers were using they stitched all the way to the edge of the fabric, and we have these big borders, and I think just the quality of the materials and things, I don't think people are going to often get fooled in the future about our reproductions and when they were actually stitched. We are part of history. This is a thing. In 200 years, they may be saying, hey, you know what? It was really popular back in the late 1900s and early 2000s for people to reproduce and remake these samplers from several hundred years before. That was something that, typically older ladies did, and that's with their spare time. We're part of needlework history, and so this story will move on. It's not like we're gonna all of a sudden disappear and they'll be like, we have no idea where all these came from, right? Number 7, restoration. I do get questions about restoration. I don't restore samplers. I will get them, sewn down to another piece of fabric and then stretched around a board. But as far as like repairing missing stitches or cleaning, like don't do that. I would say if you have a sampler and you're like, look, this one needs some restoration, it's going to be expensive. And if you live in a larger community, you can contact a museum and see if there's anybody that they know of that does textiles restoration. I do like to watch restoration online. On YouTube, you can find videos about restoring old paintings and things like that. It is a lengthy, expensive process for experts. I do not know anyone who specializes in sampler reproduction or restoration. I'm sure that there are people that do that. But it's not anything that you're probably going to have the tools for or the ability for, and you'd sure hate to wreck. You know what I mean? Make it worse. Sometimes you may try to make something better, but you make it worse. So I don't really have a lot of advice for restoration, except for that if it's really something you want to pursue with an old piece of needlework you have, I would call around and, and then ask to see pictures of other things that they've done. Because if you ruin it, you ruin it, and you can't just recreate it. Who owns the copyright? Number 8. I've had conversations about copyright on here before, so I'm not going to go super into it, but these are old pieces of art that were likely no copyright was applied for. the girls who stitch these samplers are long since dead, so there really is no copyright on a sampler. It's kind of like you can go to the Louvre or the Musée d'Orsay or the MoMA or whatever, and some of these really old pieces of art, maybe not the MoMA, you can stand in front of a piece of art and then just make your own, make your own copy of that, and it's not a copyrighted piece of art anymore. And that's how it is with samplers too. They're not really copyright protected, but photographs are. So if somebody's taken photographs of a sampler, it gets really sticky. But samplers themselves are not protected by any copyright. It's not like you're going to have to track down Sally Jane's, ancestors and see about compensating them for reproducing her sampler or something like that, because it's been too long. Number 9, can I reproduce a sampler on my own? Sometimes people ask that. There are cross-stitch programs, and I use one too. I use Mac Stitch because I'm a Mac girl, but PC Stitch is a good one also. There are various and sundry different programs, and yes, you can. If you have an antique, you can reproduce it. If you have seen a sampler or you have a photograph as a sampler and I'd really like to stitch that, there's nothing stopping you from creating your own piece of art, using that as inspiration. And, you just really do want to think about, if it's something that you plan on selling, I definitely would contact the people who own that sampler to see, what kind of an agreement you can work out. But to do it for yourself, for your own fun and purpose, yes, you can do that. Number 10, and this is a very common one. Can you help me pick out a sampler to stitch? And that is tricky because everybody has different taste. There are so many styles of samplers, different colors, different sizes, different subject matter. They're from different countries. Some have alphabets, some don't. Some have verses, some don't. The motifs are all different. And so, I guess, sometimes people say, well, I'm a beginner, so I don't know where to start. You have to remember that the girls who stitched these samplers were 7 to 15 years old typically. So they were not experts, they were not adults, but yet they still made it through these samplers. And so I feel like if you're a motivated beginner, you can stitch a sampler, especially with the resources we have with YouTube as far as watching how specialty stitches are formed. And things like Instagram and Facebook, where you can ask questions of other stitchers. So really my advice is usually, what do you like? Tell me what you like, and I will tell you, what the challenges of that piece may be, or if there are specialty stitches or whatever. You just have to kind of be realistic about how much time am I going to have to work on it? Is it going to be important for me to get something finished quickly, or do I really want to linger on this and just dig in and stitch for a good long time? So if you're looking to choose a sampler, look and see what's available. Look online, go to a needlework store, look on the websites of some of these designers or some shop websites. And I think I've got 350 different reproduction samplers on my website. So just look around and see what you think. If you see one that you like, I think you should stitch it. And don't let anybody discourage you from that. I have heard horror stories of some people in some shops, one of which I can think of that's not even open anymore, but where people would go in and say, I would like to stitch this, and the person behind the counter would say, I don't think you can. Don't say that. Of course you can. Of course you can. Of course you can. This is not rocket science. And I think people kind of psych themselves out sometimes. You look at something and you say, that's beautiful. I could never do that. Yes, you could. Yes, you could. So that's my list of 10 common sampler questions. If you have sampler questions, send them to me. I'll see if I can get them answered on another video. I thought I'd share a sampler that the reproduction is in process right now. I'm going to teach at the Silver Needle this November, and that class is full, but in conjunction with that, there will be a sampler reproduction that will be available only through the Silver Needle for at least a year, and then it may be released to other shops. But I made an agreement with Lindy, and so this sampler is going to be reproduced just for her shop. I chose one based kind of on, I've been to Lindy's a few times. The Silver Needle is a very nice shop. It's been around for a long time. It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And you know, I think shops have personalities. And so based on the personality of Lindy's shop, which I feel is kind of bright and cheerful, she's got a lot of colorful needlework. And so I chose this sampler for my collection. I don't think I've shown it before. I bought it earlier this year. Oh, ah! Here it is. And I just thought it was a very cool sampler. I got a good deal on it. I can't remember what I paid, but it wasn't very much because it's in kind of tough shape. So this goes back to that whole idea of me disregarding by the best quality that you can afford. There's not much as far as holes, but you can see the verse is pretty spotty. But it's stitched in wools. I think the border is like, God, to die for. How cool of a border is that? Super cool. And I love the little scene at the bottom with the house and the trees, the kind of the weepy trees, and then that bridge with the flowing river. So her name was Hannah, and I think it's Hodgson, and she was 9 years old when she stitched this. And I think it's a really, really neat sampler. So watch for that coming out in November. The chart will be available to anybody, even if you don't attend the retreat, and you'll be able to buy that directly from the Silver Needle. Originally, I was going to have the model stitched in wools, and while I will have a wool conversion, I get nervous these days because it seems like threads are so hard to find right now. Cross stitch has made a huge resurgence, and so some of these thread companies are having trouble keeping up with you guys because they're hand dyed. They're hand dyed threads, and so they can't just pull these out of their butts, right? This is stuff that they have got to do by hand, and so it's hard to, you know, kind of ramp up production in such a way that they can catch up with as many threads as people want. Okay, so that was my share, and then I had a couple of whips this week. Oh, and I keep setting them aside. I had said I was going to start something new. Maybe I'll get to this weekend. I don't know. I'm going to be so busy, but I've been working on my samplers. One of them is the Village of Hawk Run Hollow, which has been super fun. I have finished, for the most part, the little, this apple orchard one, except I'm waiting for one silk color to come in the mail. And then I've moved on to the schoolhouse in the center there. So you can see I'm rounding the corner. I'm almost done. And this has been such a fun project. And I think when this one's done, I think I'm going to start another Hawk Run piece. I just really have enjoyed it. I've super enjoyed it. These were charts that, you know, I have a few in my stash and have had them there for a long time. I think the first of them started coming out like maybe 15 years ago. And I don't know why I hesitated. I was always just like, well, you know, someday. And then last Stitch Mania, I started it and I was like, well, so that was stupid. Why did I wait this long to work on this? Very fun. The other piece I've worked on this week, is Miss Marianne Bourne's. And this is by Hands Across the Sea Samplers. This is a chart that is still available. I'm doing mine in cotton. The other one is in silks. I'm doing in silks. This one I'm doing in cotton. And you can see I got a good chunk of the border done. And I actually am enjoying the border for once. And you can see I'm working on a flower up there on the skep there where my needle is. I love the skep. Like, to me, that's just the pièce de résistance. But the border is not so bad. I typically do not enjoy stitching borders. But I put on, what did I watch? I think I binge watched something. And stitched on that border. And it was fun. So that's what I've been working on. I thought I would also share, did I pull out an FFO? Did I pull one out? I should, I'll show you this one. Make sure to dust off the top. You know, I was looking at pieces to take to the show because, you know, I like to take models and things, and I have so many pieces that the charts aren't available anymore, which is a bummer because the models then are kind of useless. This one is not an antique. It is a sampler by Blackbird Designs, and it came out as part of their Loose Feathers Club where they had charts. And then with each chart came a piece of this chart for you to stitch this entire sampler. And this one was a ton of fun to do. I don't remember what year it was. They're very hard to find, these charts. And I don't have mine right now. They are loaned out, and I do not know when they will be back, so please do not ask, because I don't know when I'll get them back. But I just think it's a really, really cool sampler by Blackbird Designs. I stitched it in the called for threads, except I think I switched. There was one color that I know I used Oak by Weeks Dye Works for one of the colors because I just liked it better. But there's even some eyelet stitches. See those grapes? I'm going to get kind of burpy here because I'm drinking soda. So that one was really fun. I stitched mine on 40 count hand-dyed linen by R&R Reproductions, and it was a blast. It was a blasty. And so that is a FFO. And I do enjoy it. I still like looking at that one. Okay. I thought I'd share a show and tell from my sampler book collection. I have probably, I don't know, 50 books about samplers. And I collect them here and there. And this is one of my favorites. And it's by Carol Humphrey. And I think it was released through Needleprint. Jacqueline Holdsworth, I want to say, was involved with this. Yes, Needleprint right there. So it is Quaker Schoolgirl Samplers from Ackworth by Carol Humphrey. Quaker samplers got to be very popular to stitch a few years back, and they still are very fun to stitch. This is a great quality book. It's got lots of, art. It's easy to read. It's very interesting. It's got lots of great pictures. Okay, and a great history about samplers. It's about I think a 200, I'm just flipping randomly. I think it's about a 270 page book or something like that. Let's see what it is. Nope, 232. So this came out, I think, in 2006-ish. I think 2006-ish. And I want to say at the time, does it say? 2006. And then so you can search for it by that title, Quaker Schoolgirl Samplers from Ackworth. It is not available anymore. Well, it is available if you want to spend $500 to $800 for it, and I'm not kidding. I looked before I made this video just to see, and it does go for, it's listed places for, I think, like $472 to $780 something is what I saw it for. You can look on eBay. Abebooks.com is a good place to find used books. ABEBOOKS.com. And Amazon, eBay, and Abe. And it's very expensive to get a hold of a copy of this. I missed it when it came out, and several years later was like, oh, I wish I had got that book. And I found it on Abe Books for $50, and I was like, ooh. I think it was probably like in the $80 range when it came out. I think that's about what these ran, $69 or $79 or something like that. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. I do not know how big the run of it was, but if you ever see one, grab it. They're out there, but it's not anything. It is one of the last books I would want to get rid of out of my collection because it's a beauty. And it's so much fun. When you like samplers, it's really fun to have books about samplers, even though some of the material gets to be repetitive as far as like why samplers were stitched and what is a sampler and the different styles and things. The pictures of these old samplers are so much fun to look at, and it's so neat. So that's my show and tell. I've got Galleria coming up, and I want to do a couple of little events in my booth if you're going to be there. I'm going to put a schedule on the door. The two that for sure that I want to do is, I think at the show open on Friday, I want to have a sing-along, and I would just love it if people want to come by the booth right when the show opens on Friday to sing the Stitchy Tube theme song. I'd like to stand on something and film down at my room of people singing the Stitchy Tube song. So if you'd like to come sing, come and do that. And then I too, I think outside of show hours, would like to have a time when people can stop by with the samplers that they're working on, or if they brought one for show and tell, to just show it, and I'll film you if you'd like, if you don't mind, and use it on my next video about samplers. But I'll put information about that on my door as when it's closed. I'm on the 3rd floor this year. I was so big, I was so big last year that I busted out of the floor. I was in just a regular room. The show was held at an Embassy Suites, which is really cool because you have like the front living room area and then you sleep in the back. So the front you set up like your shop. Well, that room is maybe 12 by 14-ish, I would guess, maybe 12 by 14-ish. And there's a couch in there that's not movable. And so I set up on the couch. I used an old door to make a table out of the couch. But my booth was jam-packed, and I have even more stuff this year. And so I had asked the person who runs the show if I could get like a double room. And she said, how about if I move you to the 3rd floor and you can have a conference room? So that's where I am. And it's huge. It's 12 by 35 feet. So it will be like a little needlework store in there, which is really, really cool. I will include pictures for those of you who can't come. I think Katrina from the Needlework Retreats is going to be next door to me. And then I will be sleeping next door to the conference room. And I'll be able to go in and out. There's a door that runs between the two. But I'm hoping that works better and that more people can get in. I have a couple exciting purchases. I purchased a cash register. And I used to love playing shop when I was little, playing store. My brother and I would set up little stores. I seem to remember he would be like a pharmacist and stuff like that. I always had an art store or a bookstore. And if you would have told me when I was 7 years old that someday you will own a cash register, I would have been like, shut up, that's awesome. I have a cash register. And so I'm hoping that makes checkout super easy because we won't be longhand writing the invoices. It'll just be amount, total, ka-ching, next. And so we just want to get people moved through so everybody's got a chance to look at the pretty things. I also got a banner. And I've been going to market for years, and I used to sometimes make a banner, like homemade, which is pretty cheesy. The person who runs the show asked if we could all just kind of try to have banners to hang over the railing. And I was like, Trish, you just need to just bite the bullet. I work with Vistaprint quite often these days. They do stickers for me, and they do printing for me and cards and things like that. And so I had Vistaprint make this banner. I'm going to open it and stand back so you can see it. I think it turned out really nice. And of course this is reusable now. Well, we're going to, so you can kind of see there's my Jenny Bean logo. Shakespeare's Peddler, KittenStitcher.com, and there's Jenny Bean. And it is a vinyl banner. It's heavy duty. It's got the grommets here and on the sides so I can hang it. It is an indoor banner. You can get them where they're outdoor banners. That piece of artwork I commissioned a long time ago on Etsy, and the person who did it for me, I kind of just gave him a general description. I do not remember who it was. It was not expensive. He did an awesome job. And so I just did a super, super high resolution scan. And I think the banner was like $88 total with shipping to me. And that was with like the reinforced edges and the metal grommets. It's 2.5 by 6 feet. So if you ever need a banner, it was very quick. I think it took 5 days from the time I placed my order until I had it in my hot little hands. So I'm excited about that. I've got also Marjorie Massey, whose charts I carry now. She's from France. She designed for me another little chart. Now I've been handing out this one with orders for like a month now, and I'm almost out. I ordered several thousand of these and have been handing them out. And so if you place an order this week yet, you'll probably get one of these also. I had them professionally printed. And then she designed another one for me, this little one, which I think is very cute with a little butterfly on it. So if you come and make a purchase, I'll give you one of these charts that I had printed. And then I ordered lots more of these. And so once I get back from the show, if you place an order, I'll give you one of these too. And then I've got some sampler threads that I'm working on getting some special colors together for. They're going to be limited edition colors that are specific to me. They'll be thread packs. And if I have, I'm sure I'll have some left because I ordered a lot. They'll be for sale on my site too. I have lots of hand-dyed linens. I've got lots of mason jars. I have charts up the wazoo, out the wazoo, around the wazoo. I have a La-Di-Da trunk show, which is going to be super cool. I've never done a trunk show at a show before. Lori Markovic from La-Di-Da went last year, and I think she had a conflict this year, so she wondered if I would be willing to take models and do a trunk show. And so I think I have like maybe 35-ish pieces of hers that are coming. The room that I'm going to be in is pretty cool because it's a bridal, I don't know what you call it, prep station. It was a conference room, and now they use it actually for brides to get dressed with their party and things. And so it's very well lit. It looks like all new in there, like new carpet and everything. There are 3 tables in there that I'll use, but I've rented 6 other tables. And so there are mirrors and things. And I'm thinking I may hang the trunk show on the mirrors because there's really good light over there. And I can just use the command strips to put those up, which will be super cool. So La-Di-Da trunk show. And then I ordered t-shirts. And there's 2 different kinds, and they have a funny saying about cross stitch on them. And don't worry, again, if you can't go to the show, I do plan on reordering when I get back. I think I ordered about 150 total, 75 of each design for the show. So don't forget, I'm on the 3rd floor. Come by and see me. Okay, just a few other little things, and then I'm going to get out of here and get back to work. Harrison started school this week out in Denver at grad school, and he's doing great. He's very excited about it. His apartment situation, well, he's renting part of a house with another guy the guy took out an ad on Craigslist that he needed a roommate, and it is 12 minutes from Harrison's front door to his building. And he said it's a straight line. Like he just walks out, makes a straight line, and just walks for 12 minutes to his building, which is great because he doesn't have to pay to park, drive in, use gas, any of that. I think he's having a good time. He was very nervous the first few days. I cried for the first, I want to say like week. And it was a little bit less every day. It got pretty awful. And, thank you for those of you who left me notes and said like, oh, I've been there, or I will be there, and I can't imagine, having your kids make the big move, not just out of the house, but away is tough. Harrison's 28, and like I had said last time, he had lived here off and on for the last 10 years, and he always had been in town. And my brother said like, I suppose that made it harder, just that you've gotten really close to him. And I'm very close to my kids. I think it's hard no matter when your kids leave. I think if they leave at 18, it's also hard. So it's not a contest of hardness for sure. So he's doing great. Graham and Steve have been helping me get stuff together, and they've been helping me with the fabric dyeing process. We price things every day. There's going to be just so much more this year because I've got more space, but also I just have more inventory. So I'm going to have lots of really, really cool stuff. I will take lots of video footage while I'm there, and I'm hoping to, release a video. I probably won't be able to release it from the show. I don't know what their internet is like. I don't know if I'd be able to upload a video or not, but I will have one when I get back. Okay, so one last little bit of news. I have to shut down for while I'm gone, and it's very tricky because last year at this time I had just been open for 2.5 months or 3 months when I went to the show. So I had less inventory. I have almost 4,000 items now on my website. And so I just, it is going to, take more to get everything there, but also to come back and then readjust my inventory on my website, because my website keeps track. If I have 10 of something in stock, only 10 people can buy that item, and then the 11th person, it'll just say out of stock. So I have to readjust the numbers for everything I take when I get back. So Saturday is my last day that the store is open for you to make a purchase until I get back and get everything up and going again. So I will be shut down from late on Saturday the 14th, then that whole week, and then a couple more days. I'm hoping to be open back up on Tuesday or Wednesday. It's just going to depend on how well I can take care of all of that. So if you need something, order now. We're still shoveling stuff out the door, which is great. You guys, hang on just a second. Here, pull a chair over. We're not live or anything.
I was not prepared for this.
I don't know if you guys have met Graham. Have you been on a video before?
I have not.
Okay, so this is Graham. People tell us we look similar.
I believe we do.
And so he's going to the show.
Mm-hmm.
And he went last year. So what are your thoughts about the needlework show?
It's a lot of fun. Even though this isn't something that I partake in, per se. I think a lot of it is really cool, and people are really friendly. And, you know, it's neat seeing everybody have a great time, and, you know, it's fun running a booth, regardless of what it is.
Right.
And we get to go on a trip and all that. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What'd you learn about, like, you know, because your mom's been going to shows for long time.
Yeah.
And you used to go to the retreats when I'd run retreats, but what did you think, like, what was when you went to the show last year, was there anything you were surprised about, or you were like, oh.
How many people were there?
It was a lot of people.
It was a lot of people. And I suppose another thing I was surprised by was just how many people knew you due to your videos and your designs and stuff. I did not expect that many people to sing the Stitchy Tube theme.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Right. So what do you think is going to be the hot seller this year?
We have a lot of cool stuff.
We have a lot of cool stuff.
We have a lot of cool stuff. We've got some fabric that we've been dyeing that I think is going to be really neat.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of cool new charts from different designers. We're doing a trunk show.
Yep.
So I'm not sure what's going to sell the best, but
I don't know.
We've got a lot of cool stuff.
The thing about the shows is you can't know. You know, like
you really can't.
You take a car full of, we're taking a U-Haul full of things. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, like last year, I think I talked about it. I don't know if I still have it down here. I sell these mason jars. I had like 20 of these last year, and
sold
or 12, and it was
like 10 minutes.
Yeah, they were just gone because it just was the thing. So I got 40 of those for this year. But then I may come back with 39 of those. There's no way to know. There's no way to know what people are gonna.
If I were to guess, it's gonna be pretty similar to last year with those.
I think so. But I think just us having more space. Because do you remember the first night last year when it was like so hot? Mm-hmm. Like we were just dripping. There was so many bodies in the room, and there was no airflow.
And we had to go buy a fan for the next day.
We had to buy a fan, so we're gonna take the fan. But the room is so much bigger that I think it'll just be kind of more comfortable for us. I was telling them about getting the cash register too.
Yep.
So it's gonna feel very,
very
official, and it's gonna be a good time. I think. We're going to do the trip in one shot coming and going. Last year we divided it up because I just still wasn't feeling real great. But it's about a 9-hour drive. So
yeah, it's not terrible.
No, and the U-Haul, we rent a U-Haul cargo van, and so it's kind of more similar to driving. It doesn't feel too truck-like.
Yeah,
it's like a big. Feels
really
like
big car.
It's a big van. So we're going to pick that up on Monday afternoon and get it loaded up and then leave Tuesday, like around, what did we say, like 11-ish?
Something like that, 10.
Yeah, so we're going to stop and get snacks.
You got to have road trip snacks if you're going on a road trip.
Yes. And so I know we always used to get like the Chester Cheetah popcorn.
Yeah,
it's like it's popcorn, but it's like not popcorn because it doesn't have like a kernel. It's like just foam.
Yeah,
shaped like popcorn.
Popcorn foam.
Popcorn foam with butter flavor. It's probably not very good for you.
It's
so we'll have to go.
Though.
Yeah, it is. We'll have to go get some of that. And I don't know if did we even get out last year to like see
the city?
See the. Well, I'm hoping that we get to go have dinner somewhere cool, but did we get to see the show? I don't even think we really.
No, I didn't see any of the booths other than ours because we were so busy.
It was bananas.
Yeah, it was.
But I've got some nice volunteers this year, and if you'd like to volunteer, send me an email to my email address below. I'm setting a schedule out, and we'll pay you in stash. I'll give you a credit at the store to spend if you want to come and help for a little bit. It's going to be super chill. We just need bodies in the room just to kind of help get things bagged and stuff, so. All right. Well, so that's it. Graham wasn't planning on being part of the video.
Yeah, this was a surprise.
But now you get to meet him. You had met Harrison a couple of times. We did a skit together. I don't know if you remember that.
And he recorded a couple things for you.
Yeah, and he's the one that Harrison is the one that whistles on the front of each video, the Stitchy Tube song. The people get Graham and Harrison mixed up, and a lot of people will call him Grant. It's Graham, like a graham cracker, or Alexander Graham Bell.
There you go.
Or
I can't.
I don't know. Graham means gray house.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Sorry, it's a weird.
I learned something today.
Teresa means reaper. Did you know that?
Is that true?
That is true. I'm a reaper.
I learned two things.
A harvester. I mean, you can look at it. I'm not the Grim Reaper. I'm like the Happy Reaper.
Yeah.
Like the Grim Reaper's cheerful friend. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up for now because we got a lot of work to do. We'll see you next time. Happy Sampler September. Bye.